Well, welcome into the 11 Alert Desk. I'm your sports director here at 11 News, Jessica Mendoza, joined by Dan Mormon, the editor-in-chief at Colorado Preps. Dan's kind of our high school sports insider here. Dan, you love to give us good story ideas. We've actually been collaborating a little bit on a couple of our classroom champion stories. So thank you for joining us today. We're excited to have you.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm glad it's not raining anymore, and that the weather people don't need this room anymore.
Exactly, and that's exactly what we're here to talk about, is what the rain kind of messed up a little bit yesterday. Some of our spring sports, some of our championships, state tournaments going on. Let's go ahead and start with some baseball, Dan, because we had a couple teams go really far last year, Pueblo County, Falcon, and those are two contenders once again this year.
Yeah, the 4A landscape is going to be really, really fun when you look at the top five. If we look at the CHASA Selection and Seeding Index, that's the postseason seeding metric. So that's how they'll be seeded come regionals, which brackets are going to be released on Wednesday. When you look at the top five, you see Pueblo County, you see Falcon, you see Lewis Palmer, and then at number 5, you see Cheyenne Mountain, and I think it's Golden kind of sandwiched in between. So 4 of the top 5 teams in 4A are in the area.
Yeah,
3 of those teams are from the PPAC, which is, or 2 of those teams are from the PPAC, which is a lot of fun. And also the best part about that is the 4A baseball state championship games will be played right here in Colorado Springs on the grounds of the Air Force Academy, which is going to be a treat for those guys.
Yeah, really cool to see that played out at Ertl Field. An important note for spectators too, you have to actually go through and get some clearance to get on base. So if you're planning to check out those games later on, it looks like coming up next week is regionals, and then state is coming up.
It'll be the 2 weekends after that.
Okay.
And on coloradopreps.com, I'll post a link so that everyone can find their way to the authorization forms that you'll need to get on the Air Force Academy. So I'll just keep tuning into coloradopreps.com, and I should have that information available for you.
So we're showing you some video from last year. That was Falcon when they played Pueblo County. You mentioned Falcon being ranked number 1. They are 13-3-1 on the season. Pueblo County is, let's see, it looks like they have 18 wins and 2 losses this year. What about 5A? I know we have Pine Creek. They're ranked 7th in 5A. They are 15-3 on the year. What do you know about them?
I mean, Pine Creek's just one of those. They're a hard-hitting baseball team. They're well coached. They play good fundamental baseball. It's really, really tough for Colorado Springs teams to kind of stay up to pace with teams like Mountain Vista, Cherry Creek, Regis Jesuit. All those teams that are typically in the 5A title picture in that last weekend of the year. So what's going to be really fun about this is the best that Pine Creek has really looked. Yeah. I've seen them a couple of times. I think they beat up, I think it was Air Academy a couple weeks ago. They made it a short game, 3 or 5 innings. I can't remember off the top of my head, but they can bat through the lineup. They can score some runs. That makes them a dangerous team. If you can score on really on anyone, especially with the limited pitching that you see in Colorado high school baseball. So Pine Creek is definitely one of those 5A teams to keep an eye on. Hosting regionals for them would be a big deal. Okay. To not have to go on the road, to be able to play at the comfort of home, that gives them a great shot to get into that first weekend of the state tournament. All
right, that's 5A, 4A. I do want to mention also in 2A we have Peyton. They are 16-1. They're ranked 3 in 2A, and it looks like that's actually going to be played at the Runyon Field Sports Complex in Pueblo.
They always go down to Pueblo. Yep. Actually, 2 of the best sites to watch state baseball in this state are Greeley for 3A and Pueblo for 2A. They do a fantastic job of organizing and running those tournaments. What I love about Peyton is Coach Nichols' team, even if his roster is down from a talent standpoint, that's a guy who's always going to coach them up, and they're always going to be competitive. So if you see Peyton near the top of that seeding index like they are right now, it's real. It's not a mirage. They're going to play a good, tough brand of baseball, and they are tough to beat in late May.
And one thing about Peyton, too, the city always comes around these Peyton teams, right? A small community, but they always show up for their sports teams. It's pretty cool.
And the Runyon complex gets loud. I can tell you that firsthand when those Peyton Panthers fans show up.
All right, well, speaking of where some of these championships are going to be played, let's go ahead and start talking about some girls golf. We have 2A, 3A, 4A, and 5A, and where all of those are going to be taking place. Dan, what do you want to talk about when it comes to girls golf this year?
We've got some underclassmen that are really going to perform well. If we look at 4A, that's where I want to start. Landry Frost, the young freshman from Air Academy, she's currently ranked, if you look in the I Wanna Make Her rankings, she's the #1 golfer in the 4A classification.
Wow.
And she is this tiny little freshman who hits a golf ball better than me and my friends could ever dream of. So she's been fun to watch. I've seen her play a couple of times. She's going to have, I think, a great postseason. Regionals are on Monday. I would expect her to be competitive, possibly walk away with a regional title. She's going to perform well at state. If we look down at 3A, over at Manitou Springs, Addie Dorsey was a top, she finished 6th at what was the 3A tournament last year. 2A is a new classification. Manitou's down at the 2A class, so she gets to go down to the Pueblo Country Club, which is a tough place to play.
Yeah.
I have some friends who have been members down there, so I played the course a few times. Tough greens. Her chipping and putting has come a long way so far this season. She's really pleased with where all that is, so I think she can be competitive at the Pueblo Country Club. Hope Torres, who was the 3A champion last year, she's in that field at 2A. Kendra Johnson from Salida, who is another top 10 finisher, she's in that field at 2A. So that's going to be probably one of the better battles of all the girls' golf landscape.
All right, some big contenders there. You mentioned Landry Frost. I actually talked to her last year when she went to Augusta National for the drive, chip, and putt competition. So maybe some of that, like competing at on the big stage like that, maybe that'll help her here.
I don't think she gets nervous in those situations.
Yeah.
I mean, she's been at the top of leaderboards in some big tournaments, and she hits shots that just show nerves of steel. So she's been a very, very impressive kid to watch, and when you consider that she's a freshman and there's 3 more years of this, she's going to be a fun girl to keep track of for the next 3 years.
All right, it looks like we are heading on to boys lacrosse. Championships coming up on Monday, May 19th for the guys up in Denver at the University of Denver. Dan, I know we have Cheyenne Mountain. They got a win yesterday. They're going to play another local team in the 4-seeded Air Academy coming up tomorrow. What do you want to talk about for boys lacrosse?
Well, when you look at that 13-1 in Air Academy's win-loss record, that 1 belongs to Cheyenne Mountain.
Whoa.
Cheyenne Mountain is the 1 in 13-1.
Okay, this will be
so
good then.
It's a league rematch. Mike Page is another one. I talked about Coach Nickel for Peyton. Coach Page at Cheyenne Mountain is one of those guys that's always going to have his team playing its best lacrosse in mid and late May. So they look good against Holy Family. I was over at Cheyenne Mountain yesterday, got to see a little bit of that game. They just looked good and disciplined. Coach Page was not there. He was tending to some family business out of town. He will be back for this next one, but there's going to be that mental block too. Air Academy has been one of these boys lacrosse teams that's on the rise, but Cheyenne Mountain is one of just a couple of teams to win a 4A state title in the last few years. So they have that championship pedigree. They have that playoff experience. So that's going to be a really interesting one to see play out.
All right, and coming up before their championship, we're going to have the girls' championship at the same location there at DU. It looks like in 4A we have Cheyenne Mountain and Air Academy also on the girls' side. They are going to be playing in the second round tonight before this championship's up in Denver. What you're seeing on your screen right now is going to be the Colorado Preps website. This is where Dan and his team post all of their stuff. So we've got the lacrosse page pulled up right now. Dan, what do you want people to know about what we can see in this girls lacrosse tournament?
I mean, Lewis Palmer, or Air Academy, I'm sorry, not Lewis Palmer. I'm thinking of soccer.
Almost there.
Yeah, almost there. Air Academy has already gone on the road and gotten a win. They went to Holy Family in the first round and came away with a win. So that's a team that has shown it can go on the road. It can win against a tough opponent. So, you know, you're getting to the point of these playoffs where you're not going to play a bad team. So if they can just kind of keep that momentum up and, you know, stick to whatever formula it was that got them that win over the Tigers the other night, that's a team that could maybe surprise some people.
All right, and in 5A, I did see that Palmer Ridge and Pine Creek, they lost in the first round. Was that last night?
That would have been, I believe, last night.
Okay.
For the 5A girls, yes.
They are out, but we will keep our eye on 4A from here. All right, let's move on to girls soccer. As you were jumping ahead just a little bit, championships coming up on May 20th for 3A and 4A, May 21st for 2A and 5A. And how cool is it that it's going to be here in the Springs at Widener Field? We saw that last year as well. What are we looking for girls soccer?
Well, the great thing about them being at Widener Field is since this facility has been available to the high school state soccer championships, mainly the boys in the fall, the girls have traditionally played at Dick's Sporting Goods Park. So this is actually the first year that it moves down here, but I think it's a much better facility in terms of obviously location, where we might be a little biased here in the Colorado Springs area, but just in terms of the atmosphere that it gives these kids. You're right in the middle of a downtown area. I really like Dick's Sporting Goods Park. Commerce City's just a little too far out of the way from anything convenient for my taste, but I respect that the Rapids have allowed those games to be there. We have some teams that could be playing on those championship days.
Yeah,
I mean, we have a lot of good soccer going on in the Springs right now, so I'm really excited to see how that plays out. Lewis Palmer went on the road. I mentioned them. They went on the road, got a big win over Thompson Valley last night. You're going to see 3A open their playoff run tonight. So the Manitou Springs Mustangs, they host, I believe it's Rocky Mountain Prep Smart, I think is the team that they're playing. So Mustangs come in as the number 6 seed. They're one of 2 public schools to be seated in the top 6, along with Delta, who came in a couple weeks ago, beat the Mustangs. That would be a quarterfinal matchup if they both advance, and that would be in Delta. So some good-looking stuff at 3A. 2A, you obviously have CSCS. Recent, they won a state title 2 years ago. Not quite in the viewing area, but Buena Vista is another team to watch for me from a statewide mindset.
Absolutely. Tri-Peaks
area team. They play a lot of local teams. That's a team that can do some dangerous things as well.
You mentioned CSCS and 2A. I know their top goal scorer, Ella Baker. She's got 19 goals on the year for them as well. A couple other, I was looking at your guys' website, a couple teams to keep an eye on in 3A. Number 7, Classical Academy. They had a strong finish to their season. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, yeah, and I mentioned Manitou Springs. Manitou had 2 losses on the year. Those were to Delta and to TCA.
There we go.
So you're seeing they're only losing to high-level teams. TCA has been one of those. I mean, that's just been a traditional soccer powerhouse for so long. So they did move down from 4A where they were last year. They've looked good all season. They're one of those teams that they're a 7 seed, but they can make another deep. They can also make a deep run.
And then jumping back up to 5A, Pine Creek, it looks like they're ranked 3, and they are on a 9-game winning streak. So definitely another team to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, and the Eagles, across a lot of sports, the Eagles have been really, really good this spring.
All right, let's see, where are we? Here we are. All right, so we are moving on to boys swimming. Dan, tell us when those championships are happening, where, and what people should keep an eye out.
They're happening right now. They're up at Thornton at the Veterans Memorial Aquatic Center. I believe it's 5A prelims are happening tonight. Finals will be tomorrow. And then we'll get into the 4A, which I believe diving championships will be Saturday afternoon. Swimming championships will be Saturday night. We'll have a list of champions and complete coverage from a buddy of mine, Brad Kochi, up at the VMAC.
All right, so as you can tell, it's a really busy time of year. We are not done yet. We're going to just keep going through girls tennis. We have obviously individual championships and teams. What should people know about our local teams here in the Colorado Springs area?
It is
a lot to go over.
It's, I mean, Cheyenne Mountain is always one of those teams that's going to be competitive. It doesn't matter if it's individual or if it's from the team standpoint. They'll be playing down at Pueblo City Park. Another great championship venue. Another vastly underrated spot to go watch tennis if you're into it. And then of course you have the 3A matches. Teams like St. Mary's, some of those smaller schools, Colorado Springs School, they're over at Memorial Park, so they're going to be close to home. All those matches are going to be played out over the course of the next 3 days, and then Tuesday will be the tennis team dual championships. Okay. You can find those brackets actually at chassanow.com. We will have coverage and a list of winners, but I don't think you and I will be there. I think you and I are going to be maybe slumming around the Broadmoor on that day.
Yeah, we might be. A big day for the U.S. Senior Open Championships. But let's go back to the girls' tennis really quick. You, as our high school sports insider, you told us that there are some changes actually coming in the next few years to how they do these state tournaments. Is that right?
Well, so they're taking the tennis championships and they're modeling what they've done with tennis into other sports. So wrestling is the big change.
That's what it was.
But tennis, the last couple of years, it used to be that the 3 days that we're seeing now with the individual championships, you'd also accumulate points for your team as everything gets played out, and that's how you would crown a team champion. They changed it to a team dual tournament bracket. So it's,
there we go.
It's Cheyenne Mountain versus Kent Denver, and 7 positions. The first one to win 4 advances. And it's a model that I know Chas has really liked. I think the kids have really gotten behind this. So you're going to start seeing more of that, I think, as we go on, if it gets a little more widely accepted.
Okay, awesome. Coming up next weekend, we have track and field. That is always a huge one at Jeffco Stadium in Lakewood, correct, Dan? That's going to be Thursday through Saturday, May 15th through the 17th. Here's what you guys got up on your website. Who should people be keeping an eye on for this?
From a local standpoint, that's what the piece of paper is for. There are a couple of local kids that I'm keeping an eye on just because they have a chance to really do something special. From the girls' side, I look at Soraya Payne from Sierra. She has a chance to really do something in the 100 and 200 meter dashes. I think she has a chance of winning that 200, which I know would be a big boost for that school. Sierra had a girls wrestling champion in the winter, and just to see the profile and the morale that gets boosted down there is something that I think would be really great. TCA is just one of those powerhouse distance programs. Vivian Jack is one of those girls that I'm really keeping an eye on in the 1600 and the 3200. She could go out and potentially win both of those. A girl that you and I have profiled already this year, Mackenzie Wall. She's ranked second in the discus, and it's not by a big margin. She's only a few inches behind the girl from Pagosa Springs. So those two are going to go head to. It's a 2-horse race for that 3A girls discus championship. That would be the first discus champion in Manitou Springs school history.
Wow,
so
awesome.
Yeah, that would be a big one for them. We switch over to the boys. Again, those sprinters, Gavin Reddick down in Canyon City. He's ranked first in the 300 right now. He could have a big week. That would be a huge lift for Canyon City, much like I talked about with Soraya Payne with Sierra. Julian Brantley from Cheyenne Mountain, he's another one. He's up there in the 100. Cheyenne Mountain's typically a better distance program. I mean, we see Aiden LaRue. He's probably going to have a big week. So that's kind of from the big school standpoint. I mean, Joseph Barlow, another kid from Fountain Fort Carson in the long jump, he's got a chance to win that one, along with at 4A, a guy that I liked watching on the hardwood in the winter, Jaytwan Mike from Palmer. He's looking good in the long jump as well. If we want to look at some smaller schools, Jack Schoonover. I hope I say that right, Jack. I'm sorry. I only need to know how to spell it. But he's up there in the 110 hurdles for the 2A boys, so that would be a good one for Vanguard to get.
Yeah. How about any repeat champions from last year, and how are you guys going to be covering this? How should people be keeping an eye on your website, and just what will updating those those results look like?
Repeat champions track is always one of those finicky ones. I mean, unless you're an Aiden Ritzenheisen from Niwot, or Addison Ritzenheisen, I'm sorry. And again, I hope I said that right, Addison. She was a national runner of the year last year, so that's a girl that is probably again going to carry those distance races for Niwot, so not necessarily in this area. But outside of that, it's really tough to identify multiple time champion or repeat champions. But we will have a live running list of state champions on ColoradoPreps.com. So for anyone who has trouble navigating mile split, I'm just trying to make it real streamlined for you. I'm not trying to feature top 5, top 10. We're just going to list champions. And then Bobby Reyes, who is a fantastic track and field writer, used to work over at mile split. He'll be contributing to Colorado Preps for our track and field coverage.
Very exciting. Okay, let's go to something that is actually a little bit sooner, and that is boys volleyball. That is today through Saturday up at Fountain Fort Carson High School. Right now I'm showing you a couple of our local teams that are playing tonight. That is Pueblo South taking on Denver Waldorf, and Eagle Crest taking on Discovery Canyon. That's 4A on the top and 5A at the bottom. Dan, this has been really fun to watch boys volleyball this year. What are your thoughts on what we might see?
They hit hard.
They
hit the ball hard.
They sure do.
And I mean, that's not to discount anything that happens in the fall, because
right.
you take a girl like Landry Roberts at Cheyenne Mountain. No, I'm not going to defend that hit. But these boys have been a lot of fun. Discovery Canyon is one of those interesting case studies right now, because this is the only sport where they're a 5A team. They're going up against, your Eagle Crests, your Mountain Vistas if they get far enough. But Discovery Canyon is only one of 2 schools in the entire state to win official boys volleyball state championships. They won the first 2. Mountain Vista comes in as the defending champion from last year. I think Discovery Canyon is one of those hungry teams that wants to come in and kind of reclaim that throne. And then down at 4A, those Pueblo South Colts. It is a conglomerate of a district team, so you do see a lot of kids from whether it's Central, East, Centennial, but they're all operating under the Pueblo South banner, and it does help. It gives you the athletes that you need, so they come in as the number 3 seed, and they've got a shot to make a run.
I do want to show you back to the Colorado Preps website. A kind of a shocker, Coronado getting out in regionals. We did a story on Gavin Mason there, one of the best hitters in the state, talk about hitting hard. How surprised were you to see them kind of exit out before state officially began?
I don't know. It's tough to say surprised, but it was definitely a little disappointing, because when you see the turnaround that they had, they were about 500 last year. When we talked to Gavin, I mean, his hitting numbers went up, and the first thing that he said was, it wasn't because of me, it was because of our new setter. And so there's obviously something to that. That's a kid that He's obviously a good teammate. He's obviously a good leader. That we heard that, of course, from Coach Hannah Williams as well. But it would have been great to see Coronado go. I know that's another school that would have showed up to Trojan Arena down at Fountain Fort Carson. That's where these volleyball matches are taking place.
Yep.
I feel like Coronado would have represented well, and that would have been a lot of fun for the community.
All right, back to the website. This is kind of all that information. If you want to go catch any of those games tonight, both of those local games, both happening at 4:30, so they must have a pretty good setup.
It's 2 courts.
Okay.
I did see the way that everything was laid out this morning. Chasta did post a video on it. So they're playing. It's more. They're not side by side. They're more front to back. If that makes sense.
Interesting.
Yeah. It looks different than I thought it was going to, but Trojan Arena's got a lot of space for it. It's going to be a good atmosphere. I think it was actually a really good move for them to move this state tournament down here. I'm hoping that they can utilize Trojan Arena for a lot more playoff events in the future, whether it's boys volleyball, maybe smaller school basketball, things like that.
Okay, so we have semifinals and championships, I believe, both coming up on Saturday. So we'll see if one of our local teams can.
And we'll have complete coverage down there. I'll be down there with one of my writers, James Noakes, and we'll be providing full championship coverage from down at Trojan Arena.
All right, we have about 3 more minutes until we have to wrap this up. Real quick, Dan, anything else? We just ran through all of those sports really quickly. Anything we forgot from any of those that, a player that needs to be highlighted, mentioned, a school that's doing something great right now?
We weren't able to touch on 1A baseball. We've got Simla, who's the number 4 seed.
Yep.
They'll be playing at home, I believe, this weekend at regionals, and then they'll have a chance, if they get through, semifinals and championship would be at All-Star Park in Lakewood, just south of Jeffco Stadium on Thursday. I'll be there providing coverage of all that. And also at 2A baseball, another one that I wanted to mention was Fowler. Fowler is looking really, really strong. Kind of southeast area, so not directly in the area, but to me they count.
Absolutely.
In this landscape.
Yeah.
Joe Salvo and Brock True are 2 pitchers that might be some of the best the Grizzlies have seen since Luke Hochaver, who, if people remember, was a guy who got the win when the Kansas City Royals won the World Series a few years back.
Okay.
So
awesome. I'm glad we touched on that before we had to go, because those are some things where when you're just going, like some of these things fall through the cracks a little bit. But as always, Dan will have you guys fully covered at coloradopreps.com, on X at CoPreps. Is that right?
At Colorado Preps.
At Colorado Preps.
All one
on
word.
X. Where else can they find you and your guys' coverage?
Mile High Sports. If you're following the Mile High Sports on X, that information will be disseminated through there as well. And yeah, that's really it.
All right, well, Dan, thank you so much for joining us. We'll have some of this coverage coming up tonight at 10 o'clock as well as throughout these championships and until spring sports come to an end, but it's going to come quickly. So thank you guys for joining us so much. We're going to leave you with this live look here, and we will see you on 11 News at 5:30 for sports.